There is a tense situation taking place on the Korean Peninsula. Both North and South Korea are currently engaged in negotiations after an exchange of artillery fire across their border. If a deal cannot be reached soon, it appears that the DPRK may be going to war against its neighbor to the south. According to the South, the recent hostilities began when 2 South Korean soldiers were injured when one of them stepped on a landmine while on patrol on the Korean side of the demilitarized zone. The South has blamed the DPRK for the incident and has vowed to make the North pay a harsh military price for it. The DPRK government has denied responsibility for the injuries. The country's National Defense Commission issued a statement following the accusation. If South Korea wants to keep insisting that this was our Army's act, then show a video to prove it. If you don't have it, don't ever say North Korean provocation again out of your mouth. Something that is remaining unreported by the mainstream media is that in 2014, the United States declared its intention to keep its anti-personnel landmines between the two countries. There are U.S. landmines still on the Korean side of the border supposedly to prevent a DPRK invasion. Now, despite a U.S. pledge to get rid of anti-personnel mines, the U.S. did openly declare that it was going to keep those mines in Korea, specifically for the defense of the South. In this reporter's opinion, I believe that the mine that was stepped on that injured the 2 soldiers, since it did occur on their side of the border, most likely it was probably a U.S. mine. In retaliation for the landmine injuries, the South began propaganda broadcasts in the North via loudspeaker. These broadcasts were ended 11 years ago as a part of an agreement to ease tensions between the 2 countries. In response to the new propaganda broadcast across the border, the DPRK fired 1 artillery shell at the speakers. The South replied by firing several dozen shells into the DPRK, attacking civilian stations. The DPRK gave the South until 8:30 a.m. on Saturday to end the broadcasts, or they were going to declare war upon the South. In a view of the prevailing crucial situation, an emergency enlarged meeting of the Central Military Commission of the Workers' Party of Korea will be convened at Thursday night. We are now sharply following the South Korean puppet defense minister's attitude towards the ultimatum of the KPA General Staff, which declared that a strong military action would be launched unless they stop the broadcast for anti-DPRK psychological warfare and dismantle all means of psychological warfare within 48 hours. Foolhardy provocation deserves harsh punishment. Since the deadline was reached, both sides have been engaged in negotiation. Even to this day, right now as I speak, both sides are refusing to budge from their positions. Meanwhile, images have surfaced on Chinese social media of People's Liberation Army forces being sent to the border with the DPRK. China has a tremendous interest in preventing another nation on their border from having U.S. troops stationed in it. China has the best relations with the DPRK, and much of it is to their benefit. China would only lose by having the DPRK fall to U.S. imperialism. This situation is a little bit complicated, and as it stands right now, both sides have backed themselves into a corner. Both sides are attempting to prevent a loss of face. The government of Park Geun-hye came into power on the promise to never back down to a single demand from the DPRK. The DPRK has made a very serious threat, one they have to carry out if the speakers are not removed. If Kim Jong-un backs down from his threat, he'll be made to look weak. Both leaders stand to lose a lot of political strength in their respective countries if either of them backs down. The fact is, the DPRK has the most to lose in this situation. It's Kim Jong-un who has made the ultimatum. Either do what I demand or we are going to go to war. The South, on the other hand, has only promised to not give in to DPRK demands. All Park has to do is just not respond, and she saves face. Kim Jong-un has to go to war in order to save face. So in this situation, it's very clear that most of the pressure is on the DPRK, and they have the most to lose in terms of reputation and political standing, given the extreme language that the country has used against its aggressor to the south. And even then, in this situation, the DPRK is always at a disadvantage, because it is the one that doesn't have the backing of the world's primary imperialist power, the United States. Because in this situation, if a war were to break out between the two countries, nobody would win. The United States would not benefit from a war between North and South Korea. In fact, this is probably the very reason why the DPRK is the one country that's currently listed as the enemy of the United States, which is not being invaded by US paid forces, because the DPRK has a tremendous ability to defend itself, that being the nuclear weapons that it currently possesses. This is the one thing that is keeping them from being invaded. Again, in this situation, given the power of both sides, nobody would win this conflict if a military situation broke out. What both sides really need to do is come to the table and make a small concession each and end this situation. If you like this video and you'd like to see more of them, then head over to my Patreon page and show your support. Or you can go to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share on various social media.